and plates made rich by the sunshine and lush by the rains. Say a gem light and fair between mountains and seas. Your children salute you, dear land of the free,
land of Guyana, our heroes of yore, both bondsmen and free, laid their bones on your shore. This soil so they hallowed, and from them are we, all sons of one mother, Guyana, the great land of Guyana, diverse though. Of their sacrifice, peoples united and free,
land of Guyana. To you will we give our homage, our service each day that we live. God guard you, great mother, and make us to be more worthy our heritage. Land of the free.
Leader of the opposition, Aubrey Norton, welcome to Voice of the Diaspora.
Good day. Thanks for having me, and a very good day to your listening and viewing audience.
And thank you for making the time and taking the time to be here and to speak to the people in the diaspora and at home. Mr. Norton, you have just returned from the United States. I understand that you had meetings there. How did that go?
Well, there were two sets of meetings. I had some meetings with some Guyanese, and there's some other key people in the world I met. All of them went well.
All of those meetings went well. Well, we want to welcome you back. I understand that you're in Guyana at the moment. Guyana is not doing well. You are the leader of the opposition and also the leader of the PNCR. But I want to start by asking you about the cost of living in Guyana. As leader of the opposition, you are tasked with the responsibility to ensure that you push back against what this government is doing, and that you not only educate and inform the general populace, but also to agitate. Let us begin by talking about the cost of living. What is your view, Mr. Norton?
Well, from the inception, you would recall that we in the PNC, in the APNU, very early began to direct people towards the cost of living. The very first budget speech I delivered in 2023, which was the first time I was leader of the opposition, I identified to the people of Ghana that the budget though it had a lot of resources for infrastructural development, which I indicated at the time was a clear avenue for corruption, I indicated that one of the fundamental problems facing the people of Guyana was the high cost of living. And we did make a number of proposals in that budget presentation to deal with the cost of living. And the government did not act. And as a consequence, the cost of living keep rising. We thought that with a rising cost of living, we had to get up the data and educate people on it, which we did. And then we began to hold these cost of living rallies, which have been successful in terms of getting people to understand the problem and drawing it to government attention. Now, I want to state very clear. A lot of times people just, when they hear Aubrey Norton, they think about the protests of 1997 when I was General Secretary. Let me say this. One has to, if one is a proper leader, analyze the political situation, and then based on the political situation, develop your strategy and your tactics to achieve your objective. And so we have done that. From the very outset, I began to point out to people generally that what you had is a situation in which the PPP elite, their family, friends, and favorites were benefiting from oil, but the people weren't. And we consistently spoke to the people about this issue of them not benefiting in the way that they should. The government then tried to show, that there was increased wages and salaries. But we pointed out that when you compare to the size of the budget, people are getting less now than they got under the APNU. So we have continued to do that. While that is happening, we pointed out that the cost of living rose more than 100%. And so we have been educating people to the point where even people who are sympathetic to the government are engaging and dealing with the cost of living crisis.
Aubrey Norton, leader of the opposition and leader of the PNCR, here on Voice of the Diaspora. And he is speaking on the cost of living. Mr. Norton, I want to go now to blackouts in Guyana, GPL. What is your view? What is happening?
Again, one has to put it in context. When we came to government in 2015, there were blackouts. GPL was in shambles. The government, the APNU AFC government, developed a plan, a 5-year plan, and began to implement that plan. First, a professional was identified to manage GPL. That person came from Jamaica, and we began to put the mechanisms in place to deal with blackouts. It is important to recall here that we were importing new generators so that we were guaranteed the functioning of these generators to optimum capacity. Between 2017 and 2020, you saw a significant decline in blackouts because the system had begun to turn around and was functioning. The PPP came into power, abandoned the plan that we had. You're aware that they went back to bringing old generators, some of which aren't functioning. In addition, they refused to pay GPL workers. A lot of the trained workers left for the Caribbean and other places. And so GPL suffered from the lack of the professional competence to carry it. Additionally, you had the generators that they purchased, which were not up to scratch. They brought back a manager that they themselves had condemned and said wasn't fit. And then GPL began to disintegrate. Now, it must be recalled here that the government is aware that with oil, everything is expanding. And one would have thought that they had the vision and foresight to recognize that they have to increase generation capacity. And even though we are in the blackout, which they are responsible for, the blackouts in Guyana have got to be placed squarely at the feet of the PPP because of their incompetence, their lack of vision, and their divisiveness would have caused this that has happened to us to happen. And so I have no doubt in my head that it is PPP's incompetence that placed us here. And even when they were about to address it, they were talking about bringing 36 megawatts, which would probably carry us just to where we need to be. But to the extent you are expanding, to the extent that you need backup power, we thought that they needed to import more equipment. So we recommended 80 megawatts. I heard recently Jack Doe saying he will do that. But we should not have had to tell them that. Common sense and basic management ability would have said to them that they have to improve the generation capacity, not to the point of just delivering on a daily basis, but with backup, because you will have to maintain, you're likely going to have deficiencies, and you need extra power. So it is the absence of a vision, the absence of a plan, and the incompetence and the divisiveness of the People's Progressive Party that has plunged Guyana into blackouts.
Aubrey Norton here on Voice of the Diaspora. Mr. Norton, you mentioned Mr. Jack Dio. Many believe in Guyana that things cannot get better, whether it's the cost of living, GPL, whatever, things will not get better. Many believe that Mr. Jack Dio is running the government of Guyana and that he's running the government as his own cake shop. You are the leader of the opposition. You are aware of Mr. Jack Dio's style of leadership. You have been in politics for a long time. You have seen him as president, and now you have seen him as a de facto president, causing the government to be held in disrepute. Mr. Norton, what is your view of Mr. Jack Dio, and how do you confront Mr. Jack Dio as the de facto president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana?
Well, I've been confronting Jack Dio from the inception. And your major form of confrontation here is exposing him. First, we began by pointing out that he doesn't have a successful project to his name. Fiber optic cable failed. Skeldon Sugar Factory failed. Amalia Falls was stopped, but it would have failed because of water problems and other problems. Enmore packaging industry failed. Barra Jack Dio is a failure. But you see, one has to be careful. Barra Jack Dio is pushing to have a confrontation. And we have got to be careful at this stage not to get into a physical confrontation. Why? As we expose the PPP, pointing out Jack Dio's incompetence, pointing out that he focuses only on the family, friends, and favorites, pointing out that he is authoritarian in nature. What he's trying to do as he loses support is to push us into protests. And once you get into protests at this stage, they have always had the mechanism to beat Indians, to engage Indians, to use people, particularly Afro-Guyanese, to do that. And what happened over the years is that turned around and rallied them back to the People's Progressive Party. When I analyzed the situation, and when we as a group analyzed it, we concluded that at this stage, That is not the best approach. The best approach is to put before the people all the facts as it relates to his incompetence. Put before the people all the facts as it relates to his divisiveness. We have been able to point out that he lacks a vision and that the Guyana economy did not grow under Barra Jack Dale. They inherited from the PNC in 1992 an economy that was growing at 7% plus. And since then, it has been on the downward slide. So we have shown that they lack the ability to manage the economy. We have shown that they have a penchant, a likeness for big projects that have a lot of money, which allows for corruption. And one of the greatest downfall is the level of corruption. We have been able to point that out to people. We have worked since I am leader to consolidate our base. I have been, other members of the party have been in our stronghold consolidating our position. In more recent times, we have been moving into the PPP strongholds and engaging people. In fact, I'm scheduled to be in Faith Harmony today to deal with these issues. Now, when one analyzes the Guyana situation, one has to recognize a number of things. One, the economy, though being buttressed by oil, is in trouble in the sense that the resources from the economy are not meeting the people. Two, that the resources that are put into infrastructure, you're not getting quality. You're not getting the quality, and as a consequence, you're not getting value for money. The other thing is that even in the PPP strongholds, the PPP have appointed a number of little czars. And those czars are very powerful. And what they are doing is being disrespectful to the PPP base. And so in their strongholds, you are seeing a resentment of the PPP. Now, at the political level, it is evident to all that they have dominated the Guyana police force and using it to trump up charges against people. At the political level, you're seeing that they are not allowing the parliamentary system to work. So what we have been doing is exposing them and building the consciousness of the Guyanese people against the People's Progressive Party. And I submit that that is working. We are engaging people, and you see gradually they are confronting PPP domination and control. Many people are speaking out. I was recently in Region 9, whereas you engage people, they are now prepared to take the PPP on. And so the strategy is to develop a mass movement that will confront the PPP. Let us recall that in the protests of 1997, we did make some progress, but you went to constitutional reform, and then the PPP went back to its bad ways. Our main strategic objective here has to be to get political power to serve the people of Guyana. And that is what we set out to do. And the strategy we would have developed, the tactics we are developing to achieve that strategy, are the tactics that we believe will bring us to power.
Are you, if you were to become presidential candidate, are you going to go into a national elections with GCOM in the same state it is in? Are you going to accept the present form and functions of GCOM in going into national elections?
One of the things I learned very early in politics is that you don't make absolute statements. Now, one has to analyze the situation. We will continue to agitate for a clean voters list and for biometrics. We have engaged the international community on it, and we continue to engage the Guyanese people. I would not make a statement as to if I would or I would not go. One will have to analyze the situation at the time and decide what is the best approach. However, I do believe that we should continue to be in an incessant struggle for a clean voters list followed by biometrics. I know some people are saying that biometrics is the key. That cannot be so. Anybody who says that would not have analyzed the situation properly. The first task is to get a clean voters list. If you don't get a clean voters list, biometrics would only confirm those that are there. Remember, with biometrics, you take your finger, your facial digitalized form. And when you do that, that is already in the computer. So if you go, even if you get biometrics with this voters list, you haven't present, you won't be able to prevent impersonation. So we need to clean the list. Having cleaned the list, then you get biometrics, and the biometrics will confirm if somebody isn't on the list, is attempting to vote. So the pronouncement by some around who are saying biometrics are the most essential is a clear indication that they do not understand the process and they do not do thorough analysis of the situation. And our approach is fight for clean voters list, fight for biometrics. At the same time, however, we have to prepare our people in the party to scrutinize the election, whether we get a clean voters list or not, because it is critical in any election for you to have the organizational capability to scrutinize the election. In that regard, we are training people. We have begun the process. All the regions are to identify the people to be trained, and we will continuously train. One of the mistakes we made before, which I pointed out to the party, is that we wait until the last week to train people, and we saw the disaster it was in 2020 election. We want to prevent that. We are going to train early and train far more people than we need, because we believe whether you get the clean voters list or not, scrutiny is important. There were those who claimed to be political pundits who were saying to me, don't go to the local government election. Many of them were calling. Some of them were on your program, Norman.
You can take some time to have a drink and some water or something. I see you coughing. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm fine. There are some of them who were on all the programs saying that. And I said to them, anybody who has political experience and political sense and would have studied what happened when you boycott elections would know that it would have been an error to boycott, especially in our strongholds, because you would have allowed the PPP to take all the seats and you would have had no voice at all. So we took a decision that there are certain areas we will participate in. And we did. We lost Buxton while Granger was in power. People don't want to mention it, but we won back Buxton Falls. And now in charge of the... I'm saying this to say, one has to be clear in their mind in terms of strategy. And one of the ways you can understand it, if you weren't involved at the time, you need to read the history so you understand what happened in the history of Guyana when people did not contest the local government election. And so it is on that premise, I thought, with the political experience and history at our disposal, the only sensible decision we could have made was to ensure we compete in all our strongholds and ensure we hold them down. And that is the kind of approach I will take as a political leader. When you are a leader, people can be saying all kinds of things to you from all different directions. You have to have a number of groups that you share these issues with.
Are you talking now as party leader? Because I'm on air at this moment to talk about you as leader of the opposition. We will get into the party leader's position. And so, I don't know if we jumping over to the other side, but that's fine. Go ahead.
Could I say this to you? Could I say this to you? It is difficult to compartmentalize.
Nice. Okay, I understand that. Yeah.
As opposition leader, I am also leader of the party. If I didn't go to the local government election, I would have been criticized as opposition leader as well as PNC leader. So it is difficult to separate. But I'm merely pointing this out to you to say to you, whatever we do, it should be informed by knowledge, experience, and proper analysis. There is no place for emotional outbursts.
Well,
As leader of
Mr. Norton, we will get to the party politics at the moment, and I
But-
wanted 1 second. I wanted to make sure that you are given the opportunity to discuss your role as leader of the opposition, and also to discuss your stewardship as party leader. And I maintain to the viewers that this will not get personal, it will not get confrontational. You will be treated with the respect as leader of the opposition and leader of the PNC on this program. Whatever my views are on my social media platform, I'm entitled to that. But on this program, you will be treated with the respect, but you will be asked questions that I expect you will answer in a mature, in a honest way here on this program. Mr. Norton, one of your members of parliament, Annette Ferguson, said publicly, it was carried in Stabrook News today, she said, in the absence of regular sittings of the National Assembly, I've come to the conclusion that the Jagdeo regime has no interest in parliamentary democracy. The last sitting of the National Assembly was on Friday, February the 2nd, when the national budget for 1.146 trillion was passed. You are the leader of the opposition. And since the budget was passed, there has been no parliamentary sittings. None whatsoever. It appears to many on the ground that the PPP would have passed the budget. They can spend it anyhow. They're giving friends, family, and cronies big contracts. Nigel Hughes mentioned that up to yesterday, on his platform, where more contracts are being given to Indo-Guyanese and friends of the PPP. Mr. Norton, parliamentary democracy is important. Under your stewardship of leader of the opposition, you are in a political environment in which Guyana's become very, very, very wealthy overnight. And you have to become the vanguard and the fighter to ensure that as we go along, that your constituencies get what is due to them. Get what is due to them. This situation to many is unacceptable. Here is a situation where you have said, and I really want you to respond to this, you have said on several occasions publicly that the role of the opposition, your words, the role of the opposition is to educate, inform, and agitate, etc. To educate, to inform, and to agitate. No one can question that you are not holding press conference to educate and to inform. No one can question that you are not going on programs like this one and others, and traveling in the diaspora and traveling in communities to educate and to inform. But as you do that, the PPP is running smoothly with their hegemonic attitude, and they are doing exactly what the nation expects them to do in terms of corruption, in terms of sidelining the opposition. You, under your stewardship, since the budget, no parliamentary sitting. What is happening there?
Let me at the outset say we operate in a Westminster parliamentary system, which in some regard is not totally Westminster in the sense of the United Kingdom, but it has many of the features. The institution responsible for calling parliament is the government. We can highlight the fact that it hasn't been called. But I don't know that we have the locus standi to make them call it. Now, I come to agitation. I believe that it is part of our agitation against the high cost of living. It is part of our agitation pointing out the levels of poverty. It is part of our agitation pointing out that the people are not getting what they're for, that something like the teacher strike emerged. I'm saying to you, when I go into the indigenous community, like I did when I went to Region 9, and you talk with people, you also recommend to them ways in which they can approach it. And we've seen a number of them standing up to the government in those areas. Now, unfortunately, some people define agitation as street protests. Pickets are forms of agitation. I'm saying to you that we have been agitating. I noticed when you talk about going into the communities, you didn't kind of treat it as a form of agitation. But when you go into communities and people recognize you are with them, then they tend to act. The basis of any agitation is involvement with people on the ground. If you look at the APNU or the PNC, you will see those who are on the ground working and agitating. And you will see that there is a more active political movement there. In the last elections, we lost votes in Region 6. We have now put mechanisms in place in Region 6, and work is being done across the board. Your first basis is to be on the ground, engaging people, educating them, and influencing them in the direction you want to go. And I'm very careful at this stage to say, whatever agitation we do, it must not be counterproductive. I would say this: every time that the government doesn't call Parliament, it does two things. One, it shows to the people and the wider world that they are not democratic. And two, it provides us the opportunity of more time to do more work on the ground. And if you look, you will see those who are taking the time to do the work on the ground and those who aren't.
Aubrey Norton, leader of the opposition and leader of the PNCR here on Voice of the Diaspora. Mr. Norton, before we get off this topic and move into the realm of your leadership in the PNCR, I want to reiterate that you said the role of the opposition is to educate, to inform, and to agitate. Going on the ground and mobilizing the people, you said it's a form of agitation. If you ask the layman, that may be from a political scientist position. It may be a part of politics 101. But if you say to the order form and to agitate, you keep in press conferences, you're going into the communities to talk to people, you're traveling the diaspora, meeting with people, and so on. The ordinary man would say, he is informing, he's educating. Anyone you ask, civil disobedience within the law, civil disobedience, demonstration, and protest action within the law is a form of agitation, or in fact, the most effective form of agitation. You have chosen as leader of this program today that there is a sort of fear, not your words, my words. There's a sort of fear of going down that road where the PPP can manipulate it, and we can, and Indo-Guyanese can retract and move away and so on. Is that enough? If you were to represent your constituencies, if you were to demand of a government that has taken and siphoned off the wealth of this nation, and they continue to do so. They have disrespected, dismissed, and denigrate your opposition in parliament. Ignored your opposition. Continue to do so. No parliamentary sittings were held since the budget was read. The National Resource Fund is raped. Sue has been exposed along with Barra Jagdio. Contracts are being given to friends, family, and cronies in Guyana of the PPP, and people are informed. How do we use the resort that we haven't used to say to the PPP enough is enough? And so I wanted you to talk a bit about that, because it's not, to me and to many of our people on the ground, leader of the opposition, they feel that your leadership, you said 1997, you're not the Aubrey Norton of 1997 and so on. You're engaging the international community and so on. All that you're doing, the PPP is running amok in Guyana. People are getting richer, while those in our constituency, poor Indians, poor Amerindians also, are suffering like dogs. It is the buck stops at you to say, you know what? We have to ensure that we hold the PPP accountable by any means necessary.
All right, I've listened to you. I went into Little Africa, organized people. We publicized it. And what happened? The PPP ran to Little Africa and they addressed the concerns of the people in Little Africa. I went to the Northwest, to the Rupununi, raised the concerns, engaged people. The people started to act. The PPP went in again and dealt with their concerns. We raised many issues about Linde. Some have been addressed, some have not been addressed. And so I'm saying to you, we are at a point. Let me mention the UN.
Oh, yeah, you take your time. Yeah.
Let me mention the UN. We engaged the African groups here. We made our position clear. We were in contact with the UN system, and we saw pressure coming to bear from the United Nations to the regime. Now let's go to 1997, that everybody praises, and I have no problem. In 1997, we protested. We brought Guyana to a halt. We went to constitutional reform. We got a constitution, but until now, the PPP under Hoyt, under Corbyn, under Granger did not address any of the issues raised in constitutional reform. It took us in government to put the procurement commission in place. Long before I'm opposition leader, only one element of the ethnic relations commission is being addressed. It still has not been addressed. I'm saying this to say to you, one, the system is one in which it's not like the US system or some other system where the opposition has a counterbalancing power. It doesn't. And I'm saying to you, in the context of the present Guyana situation, our approach of educating people, agitating those different forms of agitation, is the approach that is likely or most likely to ensure we get political power. The real solution to this problem lies in a government coming to power that has the vision and the plan to change the situation in Guyana. The only time in the history of this country you were able to impact the things you were talking about as opposition is when between 2010 2011 and 2015, the opposition had the majority, and therefore they were operating like the government. But once you find yourself in this position as opposition and the government is the government, then the government has the upper hand. And you have got to find ways and means of achieving your objective. I mentioned educating, etc. Look, we were not engaging the international community in the way we are today, and we are seeing results from it. You have a politicized
The
police
international
force.
community is not changing the situation with the cost of living. I'm sorry to cut you there, but
I've
we will have.
already said-
No, hold on. Oh, the international community is not changing the situation of our national politics, where contracts are being given to friends and family cronies of the PPP. The international community. Oh, well, let me hold on. Just let me make this point. As leader of the opposition. As leader of the opposition, whether your focus is to get into government, you have to make a stand to hold that government accountable by any means necessary, to ensure that people eat, to ensure that Guyanese who are not supporters of the PPP enjoy the patrimony of that nation, to ensure that Barra Jack Dio, who is without a real constitutional portfolio, must not lead and run that government. And any serious opposition leader who has dynamism would call for a halt in that movement by the PPP, in that trajectory, to stop by any means necessary that movement that keeps us in a condition. So you have made your point in terms of protests, and you chose another road.
No, again, please quote me correctly. I said street protests. I have not taken a position.
Let's not split here.
No,
Go
no, no.
ahead,
We're
you
not
go ahead.
splitting hairs. We're not splitting hairs. When, for instance, we support and did some of the things for the teachers' strike, it's not street protests, but it is. The things that we did in the Dharamlal issue, they are all forms of protest. The holding of the cost of living rallies to sensitize people to the high cost of living are all activities aimed at putting the government on their back foot. And I do believe the government is on their back foot. Now, we come to contracts. We have consistently exposed the government's approach to contracts. But whether you like it or not, the institution that distributes contracts is the government. They do it in a discriminatory way, and we have been making it very public, unless you are suggesting that there's some other form of struggle that you know that can cause them to stop giving the contracts when they are the government. And that is why I said to you, the key focus here has to be to get rid of the People's Progressive Party. Once the People's Progressive Party is in government, they will never be fair. They have never been fair. When Burnham was in opposition in the 50s, we had the same complaint. That was only solved when Burnham came to power. When Hoyt was in opposition, Corbyn was in opposition, Granger was in opposition, it did not stop because they control the government apparatus. And when we got the majority in 2011, the changes were being made, but you know the government prorogued the parliament because you had the majority, which is a clear indication that they have no interest in serving all the people of Guyana. One of the things I factor into my analysis all the time is to point out that the PPP believes in total domination and control. Democracy assumes that a government is responsive to the concerns of the others. In this case, the PPP shows no responsiveness. And so you have to develop approaches that allow you to erode their strength and eventually take political power. We must not live in a world of hallucinations. We have protested throughout in various forms. Has it resulted in change? It hasn't. The only time we got change is through elections and come into government. And then we put in place mechanisms to solve the problems that you were solving. And I want to make this point to you. During the APNU in government, David Granger took the position that civil rights and liberties exist. And so the PPP, they were allowed to protest and protest freely. Before I became leader of the opposition under Joe Harmon, the PPP started to erode all of those rights. There was virtually no protests. I led one of the protests. And what in essence happened is that the PPP pursues domination and control. They're using 10-day workers. They're using the police force to achieve their objectives. In some cases, they are even getting their way with the judiciary. It is not a viable option to believe you're going to get political power solely by some form of agitation. It has to include other activities that are aimed at weakening the government. A lot of what we are doing are aimed at weakening the government.
Once again, I don't want to cut you, but I hope that I'm giving you the latitude to express yourself. You have enough time, and you will have enough time throughout this program. No one is saying that the protest is being used in the way you're saying it, or it should be used in the way you're saying it. No one is saying that. I want to understand whether the power of protest actions and demonstrations globally and historically were not effective, were not important, were not required. I am at a loss to understand what you are saying in terms of that as a tool to hold tyranny, tyrannical governments and dictatorships accountable. We cannot trump history by saying that, protest it will not solve a problem. But however, hold on. I think I understand what you've said.
No. You said something there that I have to respond to. You said we should not trump history. I tried to put in historical context the evolution of protests in Guyana, show you what we did in 1997. And then we still had to end up at the table.
But it played a part. It made you go to the table, Mr. Norton. It made, hold on a minute. They were not going, the PPP were not going to the table. The PPP was completely ignoring the opposition. The PPP was playing the opposition. When the protest actions...
I'm saying to you, you have to understand things in context. When we protested in 1997, it was against China Jargon. And that in itself was a mobilizer. I want to say this to you. If you're going to do mass protests, you have to guarantee at least 60% of the population in support of you. Now, let me say this. The government has employed a lot of the persons with 10 days jobs. And many of them are afraid. That's your reality. Second, a lot of the people who would have led the protests while I am leading the opposition. We talk here, I want to go to the case of the boy Quindon Bacchus on the East Bank, on the East Coast, where I had advised that yes, protest, but stay on the main road when it comes to Monrepo, etc. People went and you saw what happened there. Then They went to the videos and charged all of the persons they could have found with cyber crimes. I want you to listen to me carefully. And then all the people who were speaking in the diaspora left it to us to find the money to bail them, which we did. Now, if you are going to, I think the time might come when you have mass protests, but you can only be successful in mass protests when you are guaranteed the percentage of people that are needed to impact. In that circumstance, you have to work towards mass protests, but develop strategies to achieve your objectives if it didn't arrive at mass protests. And may I say this to you finally on this issue. In all the world, except it becomes violent, if at the end of mass protests, you end up at a negotiating table to achieve your objective. So one has to bridge the two and take approaches that allow you to raise consciousness, weaken the government, prepare the conditions for mass protests, but at the same time, keep the government somewhat accountable and achieve your objective. It cannot be a one-dimensional approach. And there are too many people who believe that must be one-dimensional.
Aubrey Norton here, leader of the opposition and voice of the diaspora, is also leader of the PNCR. He's sitting down today with Voice of the Diaspora to discuss issues of national importance. We are going to move now, Mr. Party. Do not share the view that you are sharing here as it relates to protests and as it relates to leading the party. Many, and I want to go to this clip before we begin the discussion. It's what someone who intends to challenge you, Roysdale Ford, an accomplished attorney at law, someone who is seeking nomination for the leadership of the PNCR and seeking to become leader of the PNCR and perhaps eventually president. Here is what he had to say.
Is to articulate a new policy that is based on inclusivity, respect for a diversity of opinion in and out of the party, and at an ethnic level across the country. We believe to articulate a program that reflects social justice. We must allow the ordinary persons in society to understand that they have a role to play. We must meet with the business community, not stay away from them. Meet with them, confront them on the issues that we believe are important. We need to support the labor movement to articulate for new and better wages of conditions for people in the country. I believe on a principle of social justice, we'll be able to articulate a new policy and engage in some energy and some dynamism. At the same time too, we need to actually spend time in the party resolving the issues. It's an external and an internal approach. And I believe that when we work in that way, we will be able to get out there and create the sort of impact that we have. We need to engage in new forms of messaging. I don't want to get into details as to what I envisage, but new forms of messaging. I believe also we need to engage and confront the government. So I believe that protests and acts of supporting, speaking with the international community from a position of power, dealing with major investors in this country, articulating a position where it differs from the interests and the welfare of the Guyanese people, which has always been a fundamental position of the party, where the Guyana that we want is a Guyana that is driven by the people party of standing first in relation to what is in the best interest of Guyana. I believe recently we would have allowed other persons in society to take up that sort of role in dealing with issues that affect the Guyanese people, the allocation of its resources, and we need to put the People's National Congress where it deserves to be, not only in government, but at the center
That's Roysdale Ford. He's one of your members of parliament, and he's a central executive member of the People's National Congress. How do you respond to what Roysdale has said there?
Let me start by saying to you that in the last elections, Roysdale Ford contested chairman, he contested to be an executive member, and the party did not vote for him. He became a member of the executive because the same Aubrey Norton that he claimed isn't inclusive included him and others. Let me remind you that Nima Flubest didn't vote for me. Coretta McDonald didn't vote for me. I meet out to them, and today we are working together. Similarly, I met out to Roysdale Ford, to Daniel Suram and all of them, and they chose to be guided by people outside the party not to work with me. I have always been disposed to, look, let it be recalled that Roysdale having voted against me, I appointed him as the interlocutor between myself and the president. Until now, he is still that. And so to claim that it isn't inclusive doesn't fit reality. May I also ask you another videos of me, Roy? You can show me him as an active participant in protests. Then I will take his words as words that are serious. When people want power, they can say anything. But you judge from what people do. And when you judge from what people do, engage. Let me remind you that when I became leader of this party, Guyanese were saying they did not want to hear anything from the APNU because they were abandoned. It is under my leadership that we meet out to the people of Guyana, and many of them you see now are being involved. Now, meet with the business community. I meet with the business community, and I meet with individual businessmen. One of the things that Roysdale would not tell you is that businessmen meet you in secret because they're afraid of the PPP. In the week before I left Guyana alone, at least 4 businessmen met me at Congress Place. And at the end of that meeting, one thing all of them would say, don't let the PPP know that we met with you. So I do meet with the business community. In terms of labor, I don't want to get into the details because I took a conscious decision that with the teachers' strike, we will support, but we will not be in the forefront. And I knew why I said that, because I've been in politics long, and I know they would have sought to brand it a political strike. And that is why we gave support, but we were very careful not to appear to be domineering, because one of the advantages or one of the positives of the teachers' strike is that it had across the board support across political lines, and I did not think it was tactical for us to do that. Resolving the issues in the party. You can only resolve the issues in the party if, one, the party people voted for a leader named Aubrey Norton. It means that I was endorsed by the people of this party. If you take a position that once Norton is leader, you can't support, then you can't come and talk about resolving the issues, because you become the barrier by refusing to resolve the issues. I'm saying to you without fear of contradiction that everyone, including Van West Charles, who opposed me, I sought to include them and to give them the opportunity. What I cannot do is make them want to participate. I could create the conditions for them to participate, and I did that. Now, messaging. I believe, and I was there with Joe Harmon, Oh, I should mention that in Joe's case, when I meet out to him, he said to me he was through with politics, and therefore he wasn't included. But I come now to messaging. If any one of them want to be honest, they will tell you that the first thing I did as opposition leader is to sit with members of parliament, sit with the central executive of the party, and agree on the messages we will send. And those messages were placed on paper. All members have it, including Roysdale Ford. What you should ask him is if, look, you're talking about inclusiveness. He said all the things he said. And when he went to Village Voice and put that the most important thing is biometrics, I called him, but he said he agreed with me. And I can tell you on numerous occasions where he refused to consult on policy issues. All I ask is that you consult before you make a public pronouncement. He did the same with Gaza. He did the same with the Ghana-Venezuela territorial controversy. And I urged him, I gave him my views and said, I think this is how we should approach it. On all three occasions, he agreed. So I'm saying to you, the issues in this party will be resolved by the people at the biennial Congress.
By the people.
I have done all that I could do. May I also point out to you, I took 2 independent persons and asked them to engage them. They engaged them, and off the phone, I can give you the names of them, and they can tell you what the results were. I am saying to you, this present group had more latitude under Aubrey Norton than any other leader in recent times. And I'm not here condemning the other leaders. I'm just pointing out to you, they have been given latitude. And that's the reality.
Mr. Norton, many in your party believe, and I am glad that we are having this discussion because you are given the opportunity here. You're being given the opportunity here to give your side. Many in your party would have claimed that you have alienated people. You can't get along with even persons that you chose to support you outside of what people perceive as the Harmon Granger faction. You have had a treasurer that you chose and the general secretary that you chose. And both of them resigned under your leadership, claiming different things. In the case of the treasurer, who many believe handpicked and repose confidence in, said that you would have made him sign blank checks and all the kinds of stuff. Your general secretary that you chose, claiming that they can't work with you. When you ran for the leadership of the party, one of your mandates was to unite the party. How do you respond to these situations?
First of all, you shouldn't be saying many, you should be saying some. To unite the party, I just said to you what I did to unite the party. And nobody has challenged the fact.
You didn't unite the party. What you tried to unite the party. You didn't unite the party. Yeah,
I tried to unite the party.
No, you said did. What I did to unite the party. Yeah, go ahead.
I brought virtually all the persons who opposed me into the executive. Now let's go. I don't want to deal with Gita because I sent you a personal note. And I said there were things that happened that in the interests of Gita, I wouldn't put in the public domain. And I know you had that note. And I ask you, if you believe I am lying, to engage Gita. I think Gita has issues to deal with. I have been allowing her to deal with what she wanted to deal with. Recently, Gita said she wanted to go to Barbados to work with us. I said, I have no problem. I went with her and engaged her. But I am not the kind of person who is going to seek to deal with the Gita issue in public, because it is not in our interest and it is not in the party's interest. And because I recognize where you were heading, because people always put misinformation, I said to you, speak with Gita, and am I true here? I sent you a note saying, speak with Gita, confirm this information, but I don't think we should carry it to the public domain.
And that shouldn't be the issue. What I'm saying, and what is manifesting and has manifested, is that regardless of what the reasons are, persons were and are walking away from your leadership for whatever reason. But let me hold the point. I get what you said. I get it.
After he took some people in this party in confidence, and the video circulated, engaged them, and they put him in a very disadvantageous position. And the treasurer resigned after that video circulated all around. And I want to say this about blank checks. People should stop going on as if I asked the treasurer to sign blank checks. I never did. Gita was general secretary. She wanted another signature. He was still in Coriverton, and between them, they had agreed. Now, the young man that was treasurer, I said this, I didn't handpick him. He won an election. He defeated Daniel Seram and all who were identified. But the young man was inexperienced, and people with their legal and other knowledge took advantage of him. That's the reality. Go back to the video and you will see the line of questioning. So, hold a minute. I'm saying to you that when you say many people, all the people in the executive that I have been working with that were close to me are still there. I do not believe that there are many people. There is a group that take those positions, but like I said, we're going to go to the Congress and the party people will elect their leadership. Let's see what happens. No, let's not forget this. In front, hold a minute, one last one. In front of the cameras, right in front of Congress Place, all the people contesting were asked, if Aubrey Norton wins, would you be working with him? They said on that video, yes.
What is your relationship with your current General Secretary, Don Hastings? Because there seems to be even a problem there based on your leadership style. I want to ask you this question. You were out of the country very recently. A CPU would have been removed from Congress Place. That CPU holds the membership of the party, and many believe that going into an elections, that could cause a problem. You understand? And a missing CPU. That Dawn Hastings herself, who is the General Secretary of the party, said it was removed without permission. It was removed without permission. A CPU unit was with the membership register there. In the 1 second, in the party, we are going to an elections maybe in August, not later than August the 3rd to 1st. People are coming out. Amanza Walton is out there working really hard to convince many that she needs their support. Royce Dilford is out there. He's declared. Ganesh Maipal, who is close to you and is at many public meetings with you, is saying he intends to run for the leadership. All these people believe that the PNCR is not in good stead, and so they want to run for the leadership. But talk to us about that CPU unit.
Let us start with the
That's the
PNCR.
CP unit. Yeah.
Let us start with the PNCR is not in good stead. It is because the PNCR is in good stead that they all can declare they can run. There was a time when none of them would have declared they are running. So that's the first point. It is in good stead. It's a manifestation of democracy. Second, I heard of this CPU in the social media. Now, I would have thought that the thing to do was to call me and ask me, rather than going out there and saying that it disappeared and the leader knows about it. I am back in Guyana and I will investigate. But I'll say this to you. I don't know the details, but I do know that one of the obstructionist things that occurred is when the group was in office the last time, they cleaned the computer of all the membership. And we had technical people seeking to get back that membership. I am going to investigate, and then I will see what the situation
What is your relationship with your current General Secretary?
As far as I know, we have a cordial relationship. In these things,
Why would she go public? Why would she go public instead of reaching out to you? You just said that. You saw it on social media.
Because a lot of the people in the party now are encouraged to do that by others, and they believe is the right thing. I am going to
There
deal
is no
with
good
it.
relationship. Then there is no good relationship. Then let's be honest and frank, Mr. Norton.
I ask you,
go
how
ahead.
do you conclude-
Based
how do you
on what
conclude-
based on what you're saying, this is just based on what you're saying. You said there is a good relationship. I'm asking the question. I said, how could there be a good relationship when your general secretary went public and you had to see it on social media? That is common sense, sir.
No, but I'm saying to you, there are a lot of people in this party now that are being misled and being told to put things, and mind you, in some cases,
Being misled by who, Mr. Norton? If you have a good relationship with your executives in your party and people that you have chosen, why would they do that? You give us a reason. Why would they do that?
let me give you the reason. They were all told, all the people that were doing it were told that the only person that can move them from parliament is the representative of the list. And if they don't do what the representative of the list or the representative agents want, then they will be removed.
So are you?
And that, hold a minute.
Go on.
Good enough reason. That is good enough reason for some of them to act outside of the confines of the leader.
Let me ask you this direct question, sir. And I think the program, it's not confrontation. I think we're going good. Let me ask you this question. Are you actually citing? No, we will conclude very soon. I got one more clip, and then you discuss that, and then we'll have our closing remarks. Are you saying that the leader of the list is now trying to undermine your leadership?
I never said that. I said,
what are you implying, sir?
People who are close to the representative of the list have said to members of parliament and those who want to be honest that the only person that can move them from the list is the representative of the list. Secondly, I'm saying that others around there have been pushing that line, and there are some members of parliament who believe they have to satisfy that. And so it is in that circumstance, the things that we are talking about are happening.
Given all that is happening that we talked about here, and we're talking about here on this program, given all that's happening inside of the party, how do you intend to unite everyone and to give the public a feeling that the elections, the upcoming biennial Delegates Congress, will be free and fair? How do you intend to, with all that is happening, cause that unity in the party and cause people not to doubt that with what is being in terms of CPU and all of that, what is happening, that it will be a smooth elections?
Well, the most I can do, which I'll do, is put the normal procedures in place to ensure that we have a proper Congress. Now, as it relates to the question of unity of the party, like I said, the last Congress, I got a mandate from the party that was overwhelming. This Congress will determine who leads the party. May I say to you, though you were talking about unity, I have not seen ordinary members of this party in any tussle. Wherever I go in this country, our party members are supportive, they do their work. And that is why I say to you, say some, because the party membership is behind the leadership of this party and continue to work for the party. In any political party, Burnham won the factionalism in 1975, and he was the maximum leader in this party. So it is not that if this is something new. Corbyn had challenges. Granger had challenges. Hoyt had challenges. But you know what? The PNC has always shown the strength to overcome the challenges, and we will overcome it and ride this party into victory.
Aubrey Norton here on Voice of the Diaspora. We're coming to closing time. I will play one clip. It's going to be about 4 or 5 minutes. He will deal with what has been said on that clip, and we will have his closing remarks, and we will call it today. But before I go to that, I wanted to ask him one other question. I want to ask him one another question. Mr. Norton, would you engage in a debate right here on this program as early as possible with Amanza Walton and Roysdale Ford to talk about what is happening in the party and to talk about your leadership as leader of the opposition? Would you engage in a
am
debate?
Prepared to engage anybody on the question of a vision for the party and a vision for Guyana. Let me say this to you. I'm not going to come to discuss the party's business on a television program. But if the party has never been a party in which everybody agreed and moved.
Exactly.
You would have known there were forces up against Hoyt. You would have known there were forces up against Burnham. Ralph Farley challenged Burnham.
That's healthy. That's healthy. That's healthy.
So, but though you're saying it's healthy, you are treating it as a problem of my leadership.
No, I am not treating. I'm asking the question, sir. I have not treated you anyway on this program. I have not treated you anyway on this program, and I don't want you to do a disservice to me.
I'm saying to you how you couch the question. You didn't operate as if. When you finish, I will speak.
Mr. Norton, the offense is not in the question. I'm asking questions, and I have a right to ask questions as a media person, and that is what I'm doing. No, I ask the hard questions. I can't take much of it.
Have the right? Do you agree that
yes, I do. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
That's all I'm doing.
I think you have been given the right. I think you have been given the right.
I'm merely saying to you, every political party has factions. There's no doubt about that. Our task is to reduce factionalism. But I have a problem if when a faction emerges, it is treated as a crisis in leadership. Factions emerge for different reasons. Some are from in the party, some are from forces external to the party. My task as leader is to analyze them and give the party general guidance on where we are going and how we're getting there, and I have been doing that.
Aubrey Norton here on Voice of the Diaspora. Let us go to this clip, and Ms. Norton will respond to what is being said on this clip. Amna Ali is a PNCR stalwart. I think she has been in the PNC before you. She has served the PNC.
Not true.
I said I think. Yeah. Oh, she met you there. For 53 years. She's been
as a journalist.
I said I think. I said I think. I did not say she is or she has been. Okay. I said I think. She said she's been there for 53 years. I don't know how long you have been there. You can tell us. But she has been General Secretary. She's been a coalition government minister. She has been a leader in the YSM. And she is someone that served the party um, for decades. And regardless of what people think at the moment, you cannot just dismiss her as a nobody. None can dismiss her as a nobody. I'm not saying that you would. Let us go to what Amna says here, and then we'll discuss that, and you will give your closing remarks.
To Congress place to do handover of what we have, what we don't have. I believe a deal would have done that. Instead, what Mr. Norton did was him come to Congress place, but not Amna Ali. Now, if somebody says that I can't go to Congress place, it means that he probably may go. But in his tenure as leader of the PNC, he dismantled all the structures in most of the regions. He didn't in regions. They were supportive of him. He put in Region 9, he put in an interim management committee. So the first thing he did was to dismantle the structures there, were supportive of Granger, Harman, and Amna Ali. Now, apart from that, he appointed Carol Smith Joseph as the chief scrutineer. And what Carol Smith Joseph did was to dismiss all the scrutineers who was here and employed new people, her friends and her favorites. And if anyone was seen with anybody that she believes is not a member of their camp, so to speak, that person is dismissed. Recently, Royce Ford was in Region 1, Port Kaitumo, and he spoke with a scrutineer by the name of Tiffany. I don't have her surname at the moment. But after that, Tiffany was dismissed because she had no right to speak with Royce Ford. And, this has been going on. These things have been repeating themselves. I don't recall the other aspects that you mentioned.
Let me ask you. You have been in the PNCR for over 50 years. You said you said that there has been under Mr. Norton's stewardship, current stewardship, leadership of the PNCR.
Yes.
You said there hasn't been accountability, and he has dismantled and destroyed the party. He has dismantled organs in the party, and in that process, he has dismantled. Would you care to elaborate on that, so that our viewers can have a full understanding of what you are saying?
Well, I mentioned just now the situation with dismantling the structure and the appointment of the scrutineers in the various regions. It is a known fact. It has been made public that the treasurer alleged that he had to do blank checks and give to Mr. Norton. And so I consider that bad because you cannot want a treasurer to send you signed checks, and you are spending without even letting anyone know what the expenditure is for. So you have that situation. Look, the General Secretary resigned under his stewardship. The Treasurer resigned under his stewardship. Something has to be amiss. Let me give you another scenario. After Mr. Norton became leader, he wanted to get the bank balance at the bank. Because, of course, the first thing he said, oh, nothing is left in the treasury, and I have no money in the coffers to spend. And so he wanted to get a report, apparently, to from the Citizens Bank to show. You know what he did? Instead of asking the General Secretary whom he appointed, Gita Chandan, he implicated an elder of the party, Mr. Oscar Clark, to write a letter. And I can tell you I have a copy of the letter. Letter dated January 7th. And the bank responded on January 24th with what is in the bank. Now, that alone, why is it your General Secretary did not write to the bank and you use someone who was a previous General Secretary? Oscar Clark was the General Secretary before me. So
That is former General Secretary of the PNCR, former Coalition Minister Amna Ali, speaking to Voice of the Diaspora. Well, let me just finish. Speaking to Voice of the Diaspora 2 days ago. Those are damning allegations. Miss Ali also recently went to the Guyana Chronicle. She said to this host that because of Mr. Norton's continuous castigation of her on his press conference, that the Chronicle reached out to her and she gave them an interview. She referred to Mr. Norton as racist, as a racist leader in the PNCR. Aubrey Norton has the opportunity, damning being racist. Mr. Norton.
Let me start with racism. I, Aubrey Norton, supported Winston Murray, an Indian, to become leader of this party. When the same person opposed him, I want to make this point. I had recommended an Amerindian to become the chairman of Region 10. His name was Gittins. He died. And Amna's response was, how do you put an Amerindian in charge of a black constituency? My response was that this boy had served the party for years and his race didn't matter. I supported Daniel Siram becoming chairman of the region when I saw the list. So I can say I worked and helped Ganesh Maipal to be an active member of this party. People say things that suit them. On the Oscar Clark issue, it's a total lie. I would like you to call Oscar Clark and ask him if I ever instructed him to write any bank to ask for a document. But it is in the nature of the person. Now, let me go to the handover. I can provide you with the letter. What she said is totally untrue. I wrote her asking her to hand over, I think, to Aubrey Retty-Meyer. And I have the letter still in my email. When I get the time, I can send it to you. Her response was she got everything in she had. If I wanted, she must come and I must come and get it. I ignored that and we moved on. Never said anything, but she cannot come to Congress, please. Never was involved in any discussion like that. It tells you the person. If you listen, you would recognize that it's not fluent ideas that were flowing. They were ideas that were being made up as they go. Erwin Holder was elected while Amna Ali was General Secretary. I did not dismantle any structure in that region. In Region 5, they held a conference and they elected Vince Roy Jordan. It is true that I changed the structure in Region 9 because nothing was happening in Region 9. Remember, on the Granger, we lost the municipality of Region 9, of Letem. And therefore, I felt that we cannot afford that in general elections. And since the group that was there was doing no work, we put a management committee in place there, and that management committee has been delivering. We were able to visit virtually all the groups in the Rupununi. So I will defend that anytime because it is in the interest of our party and success. Carol Joseph, if she wants to be honest, she will tell you, while she was chief scrutineer, Carol Joseph did the work. And Carol is competent in the area. And I have no reservations that she's the best person to be there. Now it comes to the case of Tiffany Daniels. I can give you the number for you to call Tiffany Daniels and ask Tiffany Daniels if she called me as leader of the party and ask if she should meet with Roysdale or whoever. And Tiffany will have to tell you that I told her they could meet. So,
was she sacked subsequently?
Hold on, the blank checks.
No, just deal with Tiffany Daniels before you go to the blank check. Was Tiffany Daniels sacked?
How I must deal with issues?
No, but I asked, but you were on Tiffany Daniels. You said I can ask her. You can give me the number.
Tiffany Daniels
was she sacked?
Wrote me a letter. Tiffany Daniels wrote me a letter saying she was removed. I was heading out the country. I said to Tiffany, when I return, I will investigate.
So she was removed. No, thank you.
But others were removed. But she isn't saying why they were removed. The one removed on the East Coast, the question was performance. One on in Region 2, the person was an elderly person who I respect, served years in this party, but they didn't have the energy to do the kind of work that should be done. And so they were engaged and told what was happening. Look, I live in a world in which we set out to win an election. And I will do everything at every regional level, scrutineers, to ensure we will an election. When it comes to accountability, I don't want to get into issues in the public, but I invite you to ask any executive member who served while Amna was General Secretary and ask about accountability. Now, if it wasn't if it was in this party interest, I would have sued Amna Ali. I wouldn't, because I don't think, because
what she said about Tiffany Daniels, and you agree that yes, she was removed. It doesn't, Mr. Norton, before you continue, it doesn't augur well and it doesn't sound well in relation to missing CPU, people getting sacked because they talked to Roysdale Ford, and you are withdrawing yourself as leader of the party. Hold on. I am giving you a chance to speak, and you are withdrawing yourself. You're a political scientist. You are a brilliant orator. No one can take that from you. But it doesn't look nice when people are being sacked and you can pull yourself away. When you gone overseas, CPU gone missing, all of that. But however, Mr. Norton, continue.
Could I ask you a question? If it was
I am
on
the
the Granger,
host. I am the
hold on,
host.
hold
I
on.
ask the
But
questions.
let me
Go ahead.
say
Yeah,
this
yeah.
without fear of contradiction.
Yes, go ahead.
If it was under a previous leader, it would have not gone in the public domain. And if it had gone in the public domain, they would have faced the disciplinary committee. I said to you, I am back in the country, I will investigate, and I will deal with it.
Jagdio would say the same thing. Mr. Norton, I want to say that I really am happy that you came on the program, and I feel comfortable. I feel comfortable that I've given you the latitude to respond to those accusations and allegations made against you within your party. You have been given that opportunity, and I feel satisfied that I am balanced and unbiased. You are the leader of the opposition and the leader of the PNCR, and I have to grill you like I grill everyone else because the buck falls at the leader. Let me say this and let me make it pellucid. Let me make it pellucid. As leader of the opposition, you have received on this program an opportunity to give your side of the story. I think I was unbiased on this program. My personal views of you and about you are mine. It will miss the elections coming up or any other time, and I hope that I will reach out to Amanza Walton and Royce Ford, and I will ensure that it will be a fair debate, that the questions will be set and sent to all of you before, and that you will have the opportunity to really say to our constituencies and the country as a whole what is happening with the party as we put this to rest. Aubrey Norton, your closing remarks.
Let me say that I wouldn't want the questions. I don't like the idea of a debate in which people have the questions first.
Okay, good.
I believe a debate should be open where they don't know the questions, and then you will know their abilities from the answers that emerge. My closing remarks are, I believe that the PNC, first I should say, I prefer to be described as leader of the PNC and leader of the opposition rather than the other way around. But because to become leader of the opposition, you first have got to become leader of the PNC. So I've insisted that that is how it is done. As leader of the PNC and the opposition, it is my task to rally the forces, to bring them together. And here I'm talking about the people of this country, to organize them and put them in a position where they feel confident that we in the opposition have the skills and the competence to govern this country. I have been advocating for a people-centered development strategy, having analyzed what the People's Progressive Party is doing and that resources aren't meeting the people. I believe it is fitting that we have a people-centered development strategy in which the resources from this country meet the people of Guyana. That is what I set out to do, to ensure the people of Guyana benefit from.
Thank you for being here on Voice of the Diaspora. You are leader of the opposition. I hope that you are satisfied being here on this program, and I hope that you would allude to the fact that you were treated well on this program. The struggle continues because the bigger fight is to remove the PPP. And if we have to remove the PPP, we have to go into our house and make sure it is strong. Many do not believe the house is strong, but you had your say. This conversation continues until we reach the final point of the debate to put this to rest, that we can unite as a party, satisfied that we have spoken to the public on all matters and that we all should come to a conclusion of where we move, where we will go,